changes or any of the conditions that are changing at the not derailment, at the release of our incident today. Not much has changed with what's gone on. Right now, crews are continuing to cool the tank to maintain the temperature in the tank. We have US EPA resources on site now. We had them come in from different parts of different states, and I believe one is flying in this evening. We're also working with a company to mitigate and separate the train from the one affected train car. What they're working on doing is to just separate that, to isolate that car. At this point, I don't have a timeline on that. They're evaluating the process of which to do it in a safe and efficient manner. Right now, our concerns still are maintaining the temperature. We don't want the material to get too hot. The 3/4 mile shelter in place, and then the evacuation order for a half mile still stays at this point. We do have air monitoring being set up in a larger area. The results of that we won't know till 4 to 6 hours when they collect the data. Once the data is collected and they evaluate the data, a determination will be made if we change our current position with regards to the evacuation order or stay in place, or you know what I'm talking about. Shelter in place, thanks. Got so much going in my head right now. The shelter in Miami Township on South Miami has closed. So if anybody needs to have shelter, the shelter here at Whitewater Township Community Center is still open and will remain open. Other than that, there are no new developments. We're continuing to move on with our process. We are demobilizing some assets. We're managing it with the assets that we currently have, and again, we continue to maintain water on the tanks to continue to cool it, and that's about the extent of any new information that I have at this time.
Has the threat for the explosion changed at all, gone down, increased?
It stays the same. That was a specific question, and it is still the same.
What temperature is the tank at right now?
They did not provide me the exact numbers, but it is much lower than it was when we originally dispatched, but they are maintaining a monitor on that. Okay.
Do we know how long it might take for the cleanup and
Oh.
what the next steps are after that?
Actually, no, it's going to be overnight at minimum. We do know that Three Rivers School, the campus on Cooper Road, has canceled their classes for tomorrow out of precaution and out of the recommendation by the IC, the incident commander. So we don't have a timeline yet. I would expect more information once the data from the monitoring comes back. That'll really drive us. And then when we get physical eyes and hands on the cars, that'll make a big difference to us as well.
I've seen reports that the railroad car didn't belong to the Central Indiana Railroad. Do we know who the car belonged to?
I do not know who that belongs to at this point. No, sir.
When you say you're monitoring the air quality, what exactly are you looking for, and what are you worried about?
They're looking for parts per million of styrene in the air, and that's what they're monitoring. They're trying to determine how far that radius is, and then how far they can close it down. That'll determine when and what their next move with regards to shelter in place.
And I know this is a repetitive question throughout the evening, but are you learning of anybody who was injured or was treated for anything?
Nothing has changed as of yet. We did receive notification that some residents in the area did seek some medical attention. I don't know the status of them at this time.
Other than social media, are you guys going to do any other updates for the community members, or should they just keep watching social media?
Social media, actually.
So on the aspect of the wireless emergency alerts that were sent out by cell phone, which is the greatest technological advance that we have to try to notify the public through cell phone technology, that broadcast goes out and remains in the air, kind of like a bubble, hangs in the air for a certain predetermined amount of time. We're going to keep that active for the time being until the evacuation order is actually lifted. So what that means, if people who have not been in this area, not been affected by it, suddenly drive into an area that is receiving that alert, they're going to get that alert. So the evacuation order, we really can't order people out of their houses, but it's a strong recommendation that's going to remain in effect in that half-mile radius, and then a shelter in place for the 3/4-mile radius. All of that text messaging is what's going out. So the methods by which we have tried to notify the public would be that wireless emergency alert. We've done our social media, obviously these types of briefings, as well as we've had public safety officials that were driving in some of the streets that are directly affected or directly within that zone. If I'm not mistaken, that radius is available on the EMA website at hcready.org is the website we have.
You got it in here.
And so if residents are uncertain, it's a half a mile within where that car is at. So we're very fortunate in that there's very limited number of residential homes. This could have been a lot worse had it been somewhere else. But again, that bubble, if you will, of the wireless emergency alert, it's going to remain in the air until such time that we decide to cancel and lift that evacuation order.
So do you have a timeline at all for when people can return to their home?
I do not yet. We don't have one until we get the data back.
And then just to reiterate, so the half mile for the people who have to evacuate, and then can you just give us the length from the car for the people who have to shelter in place? Is that beyond that, and how long?
It's beyond that. It's a total of 3/4 mile,
3/4 mile?
from half to 3/4.
Okay, I just wanted to.
Yes, ma'am.
And that should be on the website. It should be available through our social media accounts. And the concern is the risk of the explosion is really the concern within that half mile. The shelter in place is because of the potential of styrene in the air. And again, we don't know exactly what that is yet. It's being monitored. But again, for a safety precaution, and all the experts are telling us that that 3/4 mile, that's completely well within the norms of if you shelter in place, you'll be absolutely fine. One thing we haven't mentioned is if there are residents that have been evacuated that need a place to stay for the night, come here to the Whitewater Township Center, and we'll help set them up. We'll facilitate that. We've had very limited contacts with residents that have actually been displaced by the evacuation order. But if there's still someone out there that's listening that's just hearing us for the first time and they're within that half-mile radius, this will be an operation that'll be available for 24 hours, at least until tomorrow morning, obviously, until we know more about what the long-term mitigation efforts are going to entail.
Can you tell us through evacuations, through shelter in place, how many people were affected by this?
Did we figure out like 200 homes?
There are roughly,
Residents?
the models are telling us roughly 210 residential households. Challenge is we don't really know on commercial side of things, but 210 residences that have been that are immediately within that half-mile circle. As far as the number of people that we don't have, and anecdotally, I think we've only had half a dozen folks
Yeah, at any one time. The
that have
centers.
reported here to the centers that needing shelter.
Right.
And so and that's despite the WIA, despite the the wireless emergency alert, despite the social media, despite the our news briefings, despite driving up and down the streets, broadcasting that there's an evacuation request.
Right.
So it's a very limited number of people that need the help outside of not having a place to go.
And for the people who are worried, they're not sure when they're going to be going back, there's a lot of uncertainty right now. What's your message to them?
Continue to monitor social
Continue to
media.
monitor
Yeah.
social media. Yep.
In social media, we say that generally continue to monitor all media outlets. And the one good thing, we have really good community partners with all of the media here assembled. You're helping us to help our own residents, and that's really the one missing link. Is that thank you to the media for helping us with this. We could not have done this without you, but I would continue to monitor
Yes.
for that as
Correct.
soon as something just we're not going to wait any longer than we need to. As soon as we know that it's absolutely safe and the issue's been mitigated, we're going to allow the residents to get back to
Right.
their homes.
Are we expecting any other updates throughout the evening?
Yeah, what we'd like to try to do, I know it's been a long couple hours, but we'd like to get back in front of you around 11 o'clock to provide additional information. If nothing else has changed, we'll try to get that out to you guys as well and let you know that as well. And then what we're looking at is an overnight period. Not a whole lot of updates unless any significant changes until we haven't decided if it was going to be 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning, but we'll get some sort of release out prior to the morning for you guys.
So you're saying next session at 11 and
Yep.
then possibly not until the
Overnight,
morning?
yeah, because it's going to be a slow process. Once this thing's stabilized out to where they can go to work and separate the cars and do what they need to do, because they're going to have to offload that material. We don't know what method they're going to use. That is a very slow, methodical process, and we don't want to rush that. So that just will take time.
Could you tell us the size of that crew who's having to separate these cars? How many people is that?
I have no
involved?
have
idea.
no idea
I
of that.
wasn't close enough to that. I
In,
have no idea.
in our roles, what we're dealing with the folks that are in charge. So we usually see, the boss and then what they have as far as resources that's not immediately available to us.
So, again, appreciate your all's patience. This time, just a lot of stuff going on. So we'll be back at about 11 o'clock. Has everybody been receiving any notifications, updates from, with regards to when we were going to be back out? Because we did try to send an update through our media partners that we were going to be late. Did anybody get that?
The woman came out to tell us,
Yeah,
but I
she
didn't.
did.
I
Other
didn't
than
turn
that,
it on.
is there a better method for us to try to do that? I can reach out to them, but I thought we had a method.
And if you can monitor, however, EMA is helping us with the messaging.
Right.
So Hamilton County EMA, if you can monitor their social,
Yeah.
then that would be the best spot.
That's what we want to try to do, is keep you guys informed.
And we recognize that you're going to want to do something at the 11 o'clock hour, so we'll be available at the 11 o'clock hour,
Right.
and then between now and then we'll figure out if we're going to have anything in the overnight hours at all. It's